Welcome to What's Your Edge, a series of Vision Edge marketing podcasts dedicated to helping you use data, analytics, process, and measurement to create a competitive edge for you and a superior experience for your customers. I'm your host, Laura Patterson, President of Vision Edge Marketing. Many of us at the helm of our companies are often faced with implementing changes to remain competitive and relevant to our customers. And we need to be able to create more customer and business value. This was the case for Kelly Van Winkle, President and CEO of King of Texas Roofing Company, when she took the reins of the third generation company. For over 40 years, King of Texas Roofing has installed commercial roofs on multi-purpose structures, ranging from office complexes, sporting arenas, and retail centers to large industrial warehouses, food storage, data centers, churches, and medical centers. The company is licensed in 16 states and averages between 20 and 25 large-scale, multi-million-dollar projects each year. In recent years, the growth in Texas and Oklahoma have kept Kelly and her team busy. In addition to managing the construction load, Kelly recognized that long-term success requires some internal changes. Some of the changes included shifting the company from what could be described as a directive culture to one that is more collaborative, and instilling a stronger focus on customer centricity throughout the company. And lastly, recognizing that the company needed to balance tried and true techniques, skills, and protocols of the King of Texas way with new technologies and techniques. We're so excited to hear Kelly tell us how she went about successfully making these changes. Welcome to What's Your Edge, Kelly.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are thrilled to have you. And people in our community who are familiar with Vision Edge Marketing know we are avid fans of Peter Drucker, and we love his quote that the purpose of business is to create a customer. Kelly, I know from our previous conversations that a large portion of your revenue, as much as 90% in some years, comes from existing customers, many of whom have been with King of Texas Roofing 15 or more years. So I want to dive into our first question. What are 2 to 3 of the practices you and your team employ to retain customers?
Well, again, that's a wonderful question. Retention is so paramount to our organization, and we have been blessed that over the last 40 years, we have these repeat customers that you've spoken about. And it's so important to just maintain the relationship with them at all times, even if they don't have any projects to offer you at the moment or they don't have much going on. We believe in quarterly touch points with our customers, calling, checking in with our longstanding clients, just seeing how are things going for them, their company, their industry. And another thing we've begun doing is lunch and learns at our clients' offices. Many times they ask for roofing knowledge. It's so important that our customer actually understands the importance of the roof in our case. One small leak can cause extensive damage and distress for a building owner. So it's important for them to understand the asset that they have in their roof, and helping them understand the asset itself is something that we've always been willing to do, giving them information about how to properly maintain their system and just staying in contact with them every step of the way.
That's awesome. I can tell that you're really invested in educating your customers and building a long-term relationship, even when you don't have a project. And I think that's really valuable. And I imagine that in some ways, this allows you to become a trusted advisor. And trusted advisors, they take credibility, and credibility for all of us is invaluable. Every one of us in business knows that credibility is critical to long-term
Yes.
success. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, Kelly, what are some of the changes you've made to build on your company's credibility?
One thing that we have done in the last 10 or 15 years is enhanced our safety program. We actually have a nationally recognized safety program in our industry. We have 2 full-time safety directors, which is actually fairly uncommon. Some people may have 1 or they may have a part-time safety director, but rarely, if ever, do they have 2. That has allowed us to differentiate ourselves. Things like safety, efficiency, accuracy, quality, those things differentiate ourselves and they give us credibility in the marketplace. People want to use us because they know that we're the authority on safety, that we have the quality that they're looking for, and the customer service, and attentiveness to the customer to back it up.
Yes, and I imagine this credibility and safety reputation can go a long way toward acquiring new customers.
It really does, and word spreads fairly easily in our industry. That's another thing that we are fortunate about, to have referrals. So when our customers, whether it be a general contractor, a developer, a property management company, whenever someone is pleased with our service, they often recommend us to others. And so we do get a lot of referral business, as well as being recommended by other trades. Now, we are a roofing contractor, but we work all the time with commercial plumbers, commercial HVAC companies. Other trades also recommend us too. So we're lucky to have colleagues in the construction industry that vouch for us, and it really does help differentiate ourselves with that credibility.
That's wonderful. And I know you mentioned when we were speaking in the past, and as you know, my husband's in construction. So, I can relate to so many of the things
Hmm.
that you are sharing, but I suspect all of our members of our community can relate to a lot of the comments you're making about the importance of referrals in customer acquisition. What are some of the other changes you've implemented to acquire new customers?
So we're really trying to take a look at new customers as well, besides the repeat customers that we already have. We're looking to expand our portfolio, look at other industries that we can possibly serve in additions to the ones we do already. We're looking at various data in our organization, whether it be customers that we serviced many years ago, possibly it's time for a re-roof. We look at warranty records, all kinds of things that might lead us to know when a customer is ready for another roof, or perhaps some repairs and maintenance, helping them understand their repair and maintenance plan. How can they best take care of their roof? So, a lot of different touch points that we can look at, different data that we can look at to determine who best to serve and how we can best meet their needs.
And what about doing actual like surveys or other
And we
forms of
have,
customer research?
that's another great point. We have done surveys, customer service surveys, particularly focusing on retention. So asking everyone to be honest, what do they like about us? What do they not like? Are we prompt in responding to their calls? Are the invoices we give out straightforward and understandable? How do they rate the quality of the end product that they receive, whether it be the quality of the roof or the quality of the customer service that they receive from our technicians? And it's not only do we ask them multiple choice questions, but there's space to write in their comments as well. And we like all comments, good and bad, and anything that is a suggestion, we take to heart and we work on.
Well, we can all learn a lot from the feedback that sometimes doesn't, make us feel good, but it really can help us do better, right? Continuous improvement. I'm delighted to hear you're conducting customer research and that you're paying attention to all the various touch points, for example, like invoices. We're strong believers of voice of customer research and having customer advisory boards. Both can provide meaningful insights that positively impact the customer experience. Speaking of customer experience, what are some of the changes you've made to your team and your internal processes to improve the customer experience?
Well, one thing that we've done is, in some cases, assign certain service technicians to particular customers permanently, which means that every time we receive a call from that particular customer, they receive the same service technician each and every time. They love that. That is one of the smartest things that we've done, because the customer feels like I'm sending someone out who is already familiar with their building, someone who is already familiar with their case. You don't have to repeat the history of your leaks, right? Because the person who's coming already knows what's going on with your building. So that's one thing that we've implemented. Also, having each of our team members take responsibility for customer facing tasks and relationships. So each estimator, sales men, and each project manager has their own customers that they are strictly responsible for that relationship, and it is up to them to foster the relationship. So giving them ownership with their own relationships that they have with our clients, and giving them a voice at the table, to decide what's right for that customer. I don't necessarily decide what's right for the customer. My estimator, who knows them for 20 years, will decide what's right for that customer. So giving them a little bit of authority to manage the customer relationships on their own.
I think that's excellent. And, in construction, there's the field and then there's the office. So I'm curious what kinds of things you've done to improve alignment between the field and the office.
We did have a communication problem for a while between the field and the office. What we've done is we have a wonderful set of superintendents that are bilingual. Most of our workers are, in fact, Spanish speaking, or Spanish is their preferred language. So we have, I also speak Spanish. So we have bilingual people in the office to help be liaisons between the field and the office. One thing is we're open to suggestions from our employees. If our actual roofing technicians know a better way to service the client, maybe more efficiently and more safely, we will take their ideas to heart and we will move forward with that. We're not afraid to change the ways that we've been doing things for 40 years if there's a better way that's suggested by the field workers. So really opening up, listening, and giving them buy-in, giving them the understanding of what we're doing. And that's not something that was done in the previous generation. In the previous generation, it was kind of a my way or the highway, authoritative type of leadership. And not that that was bad, but it doesn't necessarily work in 2024 or 2025. And what's really worked for us is answering the field people's questions. When they ask, why is something being done, we explain why. And they understand why we're doing things a certain way. And then that helps them have the understanding, but also the buy in. And they feel a part of the decisions that are made, not excluded from the decisions being made.
I can see that that would be really important and having to the customer to have this dedicated person to this and for this person to be able to really do things that are going to help the customer be successful. I'm assuming that you've probably had to put in some internal or infrastructure to help you be more successful with this alignment. What are some of the processes or techniques or software that you're implementing?
So we're actually using a dashboard and some software where we track certain KPIs of both internal things that we need to check on a weekly basis, but also customer facing data, things that we need to learn about, possibly about how many people we're retaining, how many repeat contracts are we getting in a given year, things like that. And having accountability. So everyone at my management team has a responsibility for certain tasks. Those tasks are assigned. We meet once a week on Wednesdays at lunchtime, and it's a touch point for the 5 department heads to come together, and it's a bit of an accountability, so to speak. They have to report whether they hit the tasks for that week, and if not, it's a simple yes or no. And if they haven't, do they need help from the rest of us leaders to get the task done, or is there an explanation on what's holding them up? We talk about it quickly and in and out in an hour, and everyone's had accountability touch points. I think assigning tasks to someone, as simple as it sounds, was really kind of breakthrough, and having this dashboard. We didn't have that in previous years. And so we did a lot of talking. As an organization, we would talk about things for 6 or 8 months and nothing would really get done. And it wasn't until we implemented the dashboard, assigning people to the tasks, having that accountability, that things were done week in, week out. And it wasn't talking, it was action.
You're singing our song when you're talking about dashboards and accountability, and we're really staunch supporters of leveraging data to understand customer needs and aspirations and market trends. By doing so, businesses can tailor their offerings to meet customer expectations and stay ahead of the competition. You know, Even though everyone in your team now is more accountable and owns something, the buck stops with you. You're the president, you're the CEO. So I'm curious, what are some of the decisions you've used data in order to, make a better decision?
Probably to make a better decision regarding the serving the customer, or a better decision for our organization, or are you talking about the processes and protocols in particular?
Oh, I think just better decisions for your business or even for your customers.
Probably by tracking customers' needs and understanding what the customers truly want. That is probably the best thing that we've done to help our organization. So if they have a certain time frame that they need the project done in, maybe there's a 3-month window we have to get the project done. So tracking time, tracking hours, tracking things to stay on time if that's what's important to them. If safety is what's important to them, we will track our safety measurables. Oftentimes, we turn in those reports to the customers. Some general contractors like to see on a weekly or monthly basis those reports on safety production. So tracking things that are measurable like that, that we know of are of interest. Often it's the weather, believe it or not, something as simple as that. Weather reporting that we have to turn in. So when we miss work time on a job site, there's accountability for, why was our crew not there that certain day? So different things, and that's a case by case basis. So at the beginning of the project, we usually find out what's important to that client, what they want us to track throughout the project, and we usually provide that for them on a weekly or
That's
monthly basis.
that's cool. I can tell you use a lot of different measures. What are three customer measures that are really important to your organization?
So, there's so many. Thanks for asking. That's a wonderful question. But I think really at the end of the day, I would have to say, I would probably have to say referrals. Referrals is huge. We track that for the most part. I would say quarterly. That's a quarterly measurement. We'll look at how many were referrals that we were given within that quarter. And then at the end of the year, that will really tell us a lot if we're still operating. And for most years, we come up with about, I don't know, a pretty high percentage of a conversion rate. Once we've been referred, it usually leads to a contract. And that's not always the case. You might be referred, but you might not get to a contract. You might have a proposal that's not accepted. For the most parts, if we're referred, our conversion percentage is pretty high. It usually ends up in a contract. I would also say negotiated work is something that we track versus bidding. Now, what I mean by that is we don't do a lot of public work like schools that would be bid to a school system. We do mostly private work. In this case, negotiated meaning the customer calls us and asks us for a proposal. They ask us for a price. They want us to do their work. They know that we're not necessarily going to be the cheapest person to do their work, but they want to work with us because they like our safety or our efficiency, whatever it is. So we negotiate the price with them through a proposal process, and we're not customarily bidding against other people in the marketplace. So I would say that's probably one thing that we track on a regular basis. And then just straight out customer tenure would be the other thing. I think how many years someone's been with us. In our case, we've been in Texas since 1982. We have some customers that started with us in about 86 or 87, and they're still with us today. So tracking a length of time, and mostly everyone over 15 years, but we're lucky enough to have some that have been 30 and 40-year customers.
That's awesome. And these measures that you're bringing up, referrals, negotiated versus bid work, customer tenure, these are measures that really any B2B company can use. And I can imagine that many of the people in our community recognize the value of negotiated versus bid work. All of us would prefer to do negotiated versus bid work. I am almost positive. And, for many of us, referrals are critical to our long-term success. So they're really solid and useful examples of measures. Thank you. I'm sure the changes that you have put in place, they took time. They came with some challenges. Change is a fact of life, and it never is easy, especially when it involves making alterations to your organization's purpose, culture, structure, and processes. In our work, we have seen how effective change management can facilitate prosperity and growth, even when you're working in a very volatile, uncertain, complex, or ambiguous environment. And it helps to have a framework. One framework I often mention is one by Dallas Willard. And he talks about implementing change, taking or requiring intention, and that it's really critical to get your team on board in order to be successful with implementing change and getting it to stick. So, what are some of the challenges that you and your team faced in making your changes over the last 5 years, and how did you overcome them?
So this is a great question. Again, I'm a third generation business. We started in 1931 in Erie, Pennsylvania, during the Great Depression. My father started in Texas in 1982, and I came along in 2004 to the construction industry. So I'm kind of the newbie on the block. And I joined the family company in 2011. I'm definitely a newbie. And it was a very difficult balancing act. And here's why. My father had built this wonderful business. It was almost perfect. I could have sat back and had no changes and we would have been fine. We'd be making lots of money. Our customers still like us. He built everything. He did it. I'm not taking credit for it. The credit is all his. There were just a few things I needed to change. I didn't want to go in like a bull in a china closet and stir everything up. Just a few tweaks I wanted to make. And those are mostly the things that we've talked about here today. Again, I'm more of a collaborative leader with many voices at the table. He was more of a one-man band. He was kind of very authoritative. They called him chief. And it was just a different way of managing, not that one is good or bad. I had to be very careful because when I started making changes, he felt a little bit, I guess I would say, put out to pasture. And I didn't want to hurt his feelings. There were only a few things I wanted to change, and I didn't want him to feel left out. I wanted him to feel a part of things. After all, he had 40 plus years of knowledge that I wanted to retain and use. I certainly had no intention of putting him out to pasture. So I wanted to find a way to incorporate his expertise where we kept his 40 years of knowledge and utilized that, but still was able to make a few changes. So I put him in a wonderful role. He's the VP of Risk Management, which is a perfect role for him. He's very good at it with his years of expertise about looking out for risk for us. Again, not in the day-to-day necessarily, more big picture with risk management, but it's enabled him to stay involved for us to make these changes we need with culture, communication, collaboration, actual KPIs, tracking more processes and protocols, make these changes, keep his input, and at the end of the day, get to a place where everyone's happy, involved, and it works well and it's smooth. But it was a challenge for a while. We dealt with some hard feelings. Well, not hard feelings, but a little bit of feeling left out or not feeling included. So I had to work very hard to balance keeping the old that was strong, that was tried and true, keeping what works and bringing in just a few changes. And it's worked well. We've gotten to that place where it's working well for us.
I think it's a wonderful story, and it shows that how to successfully do succession, right? I mean, that's
Yes.
one of the things you're really talking about. And I think the other thing that I took a little bit from this part of our conversation is the idea of tweaking. So many people are focused on transformation, big monumental shifts. And if I'm hearing you correctly, you really didn't focus on trying to make monumental shifts. You just wanted to make some tweaks. And those tweaks have been really successful in enabling your company to grow
Yeah,
over
and
the last
it's a
five
lot of times
years.
it's not necessary to make huge seismic changes. In
Right.
our case, tried and true is pretty good, and we were very well known. And he was the president of our industry actually in 2013, 2014. So again, respected across the country. Not a whole lot, but a lot of times you can make a few tweaks. Doesn't have to be seismic, and it'll take you really, really far. Just a few changes.
I think that is a really important message for many of the folks that are listening, because transformation, monumental shifts are hard and expensive and time consuming. And sometimes you can get what you're saying to the same result, maybe not as fast, but you can still get there,
Yes.
and successfully do it without having to make those seismic shifts. So I really appreciate you sharing what you've done over the last 5 years and how you've led change at King of Texas Roofing, and some of the ways that you have fostered a more collaborative and customer-centric culture. It sounds like your approach to balancing those traditional methods with those innovative technologies and new processes and just new approaches to how you work together has strengthened the company's foundation for the long term, and that the internal improvements have actually enhanced not only the customer experience, but the internal employee engagement. And I think that's just terrific. So I know the journey wasn't without challenges, but your commitment has certainly been effective. And it sounds like the changes have been well adopted, and your leadership has clearly been instrumental in overcoming the obstacles. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
So as we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to add?
I would just like to thank you for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I look forward to hearing some of your other podcasts. I want to hear from some of your other guests as well. I'm excited.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor to have you with us. And um, as you would imagine, a key takeaway for me in this conversation is the importance of serving as a trusted advisor for maintaining strong customer relationships. That's really important in our company. And we believe that while it's a big investment, and I know it's an investment on your for your company as well, it does enhance customer loyalty. It does build credibility, and those are both really crucial to retaining and acquiring new customers. So as we conclude, I'd like to invite the people listening today to reflect on their own organization. How can they leverage data and foster a customer-centric culture that drives growth and innovation? And to think about what kind of changes they might be able to make that are tweaks, not seismic shifts, and get long-term results. And of course, I always encourage our community to visit us at visionedgemarketing.com and explore all of our resources designed to help your company grow and thrive. So with that, we'll close out. And, thank you again, Kelly. And to our community, we hope you found this episode of What's Your Edge helpful. What's Your Edge is the creation of Vision Edge Marketing. Vision Edge Marketing, founded in 1999, helps our customers solve the most difficult challenges when it comes to using data, analytics, process, and measurement to accelerate growth, create customer value, and improve performance. We always welcome hearing from you.